All right, Jordan. Last topic we're going to cover tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of Clemson recruiting updates. Obviously, it is no secret that the 2025 recruiting class was somewhat of it was a disappointment as far as Clemson goes. Obviously, had a lot of decommits, um, which makes this 2026 recruiting class very important for the Clemson Tigers. This is going to be a pivotal class for Dabo, for Clemson as a whole. Obviously, coming off your worst recruiting class in well over a decade. So, this 2026 class is going to be important for that reason, but it's also going to be important because at the end of 2025, you're going to lose a lot of experience off of this Clemson Tiger team. The reason that we are so excited about the upcoming season is because of all the veteran talent and leadership that we have on this team. But that means they're going to be exiting come the end of the season. So we need to replenish them with recruits. So what do you have for us for the updates for our 2026 class? Obviously, we got the March 8th Elite Junior Day recruiting event coming up. So got any updates for us on visits or ways that guys are trending or any new offers that have been put out there?
Yeah, we talked a little bit last week about the offensive line recruiting board. One of Clemson's top targets on the board, Ekene Ogboko, shout out to South Garner of North Carolina, number 2 player in the state of North Carolina. He confirmed that he will be taking an official visit to Clemson. I believe his other visits are Georgia. I had it up. Georgia on the 7th, Alabama on the 13th, and Notre Dame on the 20th. That's one that I think he's a guy that I think has a lot of a really high ceiling in terms of what he could potentially be. I think he has a lot of positional versatility. He's listed at 6'6", 280. So he's got, but I don't think he's done, filling out his frame. So I could see him playing tackle or having some ability to play inside. Matt Luke likes guys that, Clemson in general likes guys that can play multiple positions. Think of a guy like Elijah Thurman, like, Ekene Ogboko reminds me of that, but with, even better athletic profile in terms of foot speed and frame and length. So really like him. He is obviously the schools I named, Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame. This is going to be recruitment that's going to be tough for Clemson to win. Alabama has garnered a lot of interest within the last few weeks. He's taken a couple of visits there, but him picking Clemson as one of his official visits, that's a big deal. So, I think anytime you can get these guys on campus, that is massive. He has not, still hasn't, as of yet, confirmed that he will be at the March 8th Elite Retreat. So we will see if he makes that. I think that could be informative in terms of how much he's actually considering Clemson, because that's always a really good indicator. And the way Clemson does their recruiting, they're like, well, if you make the effort to come here, it says it's very informative with Clemson recruits when guys are coming to these visits, and not just the official visit, but the elite retreat or junior day that was supposed to be in January. So, we'll see kind of how that plays out, but he's really, really high on Clemson's board. And so I'd really like to see if he can make it in next month. But either way, he's locked in his official visit for May 30th. So big deal. And we'll kind of see how that unfolds. I'm sure you guys have also seen the crystal balls that have come in for Maxwell Riley and Adam Guthrie. Clemson is still, continuing to trend in those recruitments. We'll see. I think Maxwell Riley will probably decide before Adam Guthrie. I think, we'll probably know more. But Clemson is in very good shape with those guys. And so I'm really pleased with what Matt Luke has done on the trail so far. And, he's continuing to work other prospects. They're looking to bring in about 5 or 6 in this class. And, it reflects in the offers in if you the list of guys that are scheduled to come to the elite retreat. That is pretty informative. So Matt Luke is out there doing work. Well, he was out there. He was out there doing work. He's not. Obviously, we're in a dead period right now. So I was.
Well, he's not violating the dead period.
No, he's not. He's not violating the dead period. No. So wanted to kind of throw those guys out there. Those are the guys that are close, or at least we're getting some inkling as far as where they're trending. I want to do a more in-depth segment on some of the other positions. We'll probably talk about the defensive line next week and maybe some wide receiver, because I know everybody's really interested in those two positions in particular. But yeah, that's kind of what I have right now. Don't want to spend too much time, because this is going to be a big class. So I don't want to spend too much time on one position group. But offensive line right now is kind of where I have my eyes on, because I think this is the number one priority for this class, because you're going to have a lot of spots open after next year. Shout out to Tate Reynolds. I believe he has jumped up to the number one quarterback or number one player in the state of Arizona. He won the Arizona State Player of the Year. He's continuing to rise up. I really think Clemson got a really, really talented football player in Tate Reynolds. I know he says he's a 3-star. I don't think he'll finish a 3-star. I think he has top 200 type player written on him. I think especially as he continues to camp, he's a guy that hasn't been playing quarterback very long.
Right.
So I wanted to give him a shout out as well. One of Clemson's quarterback commits in the class, and the one that I think will ultimately be play here. Shout out to Brock Bradley, because he's been cooking a little bit in the camp circuit as well. But I wanted to give a quick shout out to Tate Reynolds, because I think he's still being underrated nationally, and not just I'm a Clemson fan, so he's going to. I'm obviously going to think every Clemson commit is underrated. No, I think Tate Reynolds is a legitimate blue chip type of quarterback with tremendous arm talent and physical tools. And
he's definitely got the arm talent, that's for sure.
Yeah, and you see his progression from this season, from last season as a first-year starter to this year. It's insane. He put up over 4,000 total yards and like 40-something touchdowns. Like he's I think he's going to be really, really good. The production is matching, and he's impressed a lot of people as he's gotten out there to more camps. So I think you'll see his the ranking isn't everything, and I would still love him even if his ranking didn't change. But I do expect to see him rise when the next update comes, because he really is a talented football player and a guy that I think could come in. And I don't know if he'll start in 2026.
Right.
He's a guy that I think could work his way into the rotation because of talent.
While we're on the subject of quarterback, before we transition from the recruiting update, obviously Clemson's got a couple recruits that have already committed in the 2026 class. You talked about Tate Reynolds, also got Brock Bradley, both 3-star recruits, but also behind Cade Klubnik, you got Chris Vizina. So just talk a little bit moving forward. What is your confidence level for Clemson moving forward at the quarterback position? Obviously, we got one more year of Cade Klubnik, and we're super excited about that. And we expect that to be really elite quarterback play this year. But after 2025, there's kind of a question mark. So is it going to be Chris Vizina? Is it going to be Tate Reynolds? Is it going to be Brock Bradley? What is kind of your confidence level for that quarterback room going forward after Cade Klubnik moves on to the NFL?
Yeah, the quarterback is always it's difficult to project. You really don't know until you know. But I think with the way that Clemson has structured it and recruited the quarterback position the last couple of cycles, they're going to have a really diverse group of guys. But I think guys that could all fit into this system. You mentioned, Chris Vizina obviously is the guy that's been marinating in the program and the presumed next in line next season. And then you bring in a true freshman, Chris Denson from Florida, who has extremely high athletic tools. Got a really big ratings bump on three. That was pretty cool to see. Not sure a guy that I think is going to be come in and ready to compete for a starting spot, but we'll see. He looked pretty impressive, and some of the workout footage that we've seen released, he looks the part, I think, and so that's obviously a good sign. And so and then obviously Tate Reynolds and Brock Bradley coming in next season or in 2026, like this group, you're going to have a really, really a diverse group of guys in terms of skill set and body type. So, some of them are not necessarily going to be guys that are ready to start. So that has me questioning. I don't think you have a surefire, like, this guy is obviously going to be great type of player. Like, I think there are obvious drawbacks to every single one, as there is with most recruits.
Right.
But this is not the you're stacking Trevor, Deshaun Watson, and then
we got no Deshaun Watson or Trevor Lawrence walking through.
Trevor Lawrence, and then you had Hunter Johnson in between as a 5-star, and
Kelly Bryant.
You don't have that collection of blue chip guys, but I'm really high on, especially high on Tate Reynolds. I think Chris Denson has a lot of potential. And with Chris Vizina being a guy that's been sitting in the program for a while, I'm a little more confident in Vizina than probably the general Clemson fan is. I feel like he's a guy that has always had the physical tools, and when he has played, he's flashed a little bit of that ability. I think he offers a ton as a runner, and I think the arm talent is there. It's a matter of putting it out there on the field and executing, being able to execute the offense. And so I think we'll learn a lot this season if Clemson is as good as I hope they are and believe they can be. You're going to see it. You're going to have some opportunities to see him a lot more, maybe in some backup and, get him some reps, valuable reps for next season. But I am a believer in the guy that sits in a program for a long time behind a long-time starter and and is ready to go. And, maybe he starts one season, 1 or 2 seasons, but he's had the same offensive coordinator since he's been here, and I think that means a lot.
And heading into 2026, he's going to have 2 years of eligibility, right?
Yep.
And to your point, I was going to mention, like, there's something to be said about a guy like Chris Vizina who's willing to sit, who's willing to just kind of play behind that starter and grind and get better and hopefully be developing this entire time. It does give you a bit of confidence when you got a veteran guy in the program that, has been in Garrett Riley's system for this entire time. And hopefully when he's starting, he's still in that same system, unless Garrett Riley decides to move on. But I think there's something to be said for a guy like that who, in a world of college football where, when you're as highly recruited as Chris Vizina was and kind of, coming in, you don't see very many of those guys sitting multiple years, much less willing to sit seasons and still stick around and still bide his time and say that he's committed to Clemson and this is where he's staying. So there's something to be said for that. So if that translates on the field, obviously I think he's got a leg up on anybody coming in. Those guys are uber talented. Tate Reynolds, a guy that can kind of execute the offense that Garrett Riley, he's a good fit for what Garrett Riley likes to do offensively. But there is something to be said about a guy in Chris Vizina who's willing to stick around 3 years and grind it out for his opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, with that being said, I think, while it's not the quarterback classes that we're used to, so, oh man, we got the 5-star type of player. I think what Clemson has emphasized the last couple cycles is fit guys that are, plus value players with their arm and their legs. Garrett Riley likes it, guys that are well built. I think that's another thing. I think Chris Denson will have to get a little bit bigger, but I think he's a guy that can put on the size and without too much of a ding to his athleticism. And then I think Tate Reynolds is, from a body type standpoint, is already in a really good place. I think in Vizina the same way. I think he's already in a really good place from a body type standpoint. It feels like Clemson has recruited a bunch of Josh Allen type players. And that's kind of what I envision. Not in terms of I'm not comparing these players to Josh Allen. Don't forget. I'm talking about archetype, the big bodied, plus value
Right.
plus value with their legs, but they have really, really good arms. Like that. That's what I envision with Clemson in terms of what the archetype and the mold of what they want in their quarterback is, because they're a team that emphasizes the quarterback run game. But they want a guy that can spin it and make it throws at all levels of the field.
Yeah. So you're saying we got future NFL MVPs on our roster? Got it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Y'all can go ahead and clip me. Let's just put that out there. Might as well. We'll get angry comments anyway.
You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first.
Yeah. But no, I'm excited about all of these guys because I do think they bring something different to the table. But they are all, I think they fit a similar mold for what Clemson likes and what Garrett seems to like in his quarterbacks. Maybe a better comparison is Max Duggan, because Garrett Riley coached Max Duggan.
There you go.
But Max Duggan was a well-built kid, but could make throws at every level of the field. And that's probably the better comparison than saying Josh Allen, because people are automatically going to bristle at that.
No, I like the Josh Allen comparison better. No, we're sticking with the Josh Allen one.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe Max Duggan is the better example. I'll say that. Which, hey, if you can get Max Duggan production every year,
hey man, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Look, he made it. He may not have made it in the NFL, but guess what? Ask me how much I care what dudes do in the NFL.
Yeah,
doesn't matter. Does not matter.
Exactly.
It's nice to see Clemson guys go and have great success, and yes, it is good for the program and recruiting and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's all about what you do while you're in that. While you got that tiger pole on your helmet. So, I root for them in the NFL, but honestly, I base it off of what they do at Clemson.